Metal Gear Solid 4 almost ended in a way that would have shocked pretty much anyone who had played it. So imagine Snake and Otacon. You know, the classic captain of the wrestling team and then leader of the math club friendship. And they are two of the series' most beloved characters.
Call me Otacon.
Otacon.
And I mean, if their freaking handshake in Sons of Liberty doesn't sell you on how close of a bond they have, I don't know what will. And they've been through all sorts of stuff together, mainly being what we've seen the two tragic losses that Hal had, that Snake was there to support him for. But anyways, imagine these two characters at the end of everything they've been through. They end up in a military tribunal, and the story's written in a way to where they have to go here and fess up to being terrorists, and then they are executed. So the original ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, these two iconic characters were to be executed. So that was the original plan, written by Hideo Kojima himself. But we know that that is not what we ended up with. So in today's video, I ask, who killed the ending where they were killed?
できませんっていうのは簡単なんですけども、普通できないことをやるから評価されるんで、それをどう可能にするか。
So if you're like me and you like to dig way back into forums from like 16 years ago and you're reading all about why the ending was changed because maybe you're making a YouTube video on this topic, well, there's a name you might find, and that's Ryan Payton. But who is Ryan Payton? So at the time of Metal Gear Solid 4's development, Payton was an assistant producer at Kojima Productions. He'd actually joined the studio after Metal Gear Solid 3, but he did join before the re-release Subsistence, and his job was to act as sort of a bridge between Kojima's Japanese team and the Western market, handling localization, helping adjust controls for Western tastes, and communicating between cultures. But let's make it clear, he wasn't a writer. His job wasn't to westernize Hideo Kojima and bring his story to the States. There's a lot of fans out there, and they believe Payton's influence stretched further than anyone actually realized.
Ryan Payton, assistant producer with Kojima Productions.
Every day is it's wild, you know, just working with a team of 200 Japanese guys working on MGS4 every day, tweaking it, making sure it's the best game coming out next year.
And so the theory goes, in Japanese culture, unaliving yourself, especially in the name of honor, can be seen as an acceptable, even noble way to meet one's end. But in Western culture, as I think it's pretty obvious based on the way I'm saying this, unaliving yourself is not very good. You know, we see it as cowardly, as a weakness. And so this rumor or theory or whatever says Payton recognized this cultural gap in that he convinced Kojima that Snake taking his own life, Solid Snake taking his own life at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, or even accepting execution wouldn't sit well with Western audiences. And so, according to those that are terminally online, that is the reason the ending was changed. It's a neat story. I mean, it's interesting thinking that this Ryan Payton guy came in and worked with Kojima to westernize the series, and suddenly Kojima's amazing, incredible ending was changed for Western audiences because we just couldn't handle it. Kind of ironic, 2 years after the game came out, we got Red Dead Redemption. And as a soft and simple Westerner, I will say that the ending of Red Dead Redemption absolutely devastated me and made me so angry. But eventually, over time, it really grew to be a strong, definitive ending for the game. So I think that Metal Gear Solid 4's original ending definitely could have had a similar impact and really just hammered home Hideo Kojima's message to an extent. More on that in a minute. So Hideo Kojima's ending didn't happen the way he originally intended. And there's the theory that it was Ryan Kirby who changed it. And it's really just because this guy that was there to westernize certain aspects of the game was there supposedly when the ending would have changed. To the people that believe that, or we're saying that, that's the smoking gun. I mean, there's not really a lot to go off of there. But here's the thing about smoking guns and guys when we get to our late 50s. Sometimes they fire blanks. And correlation doesn't mean causation. In reality, there is absolutely no evidence at all that Payton ever touched the story. In fact, he's even publicly said, verbatim, "You know that I didn't write the Metal Gear Solid 4 story, right?" So he said that. And sure, people lie, but I mean, really, why would he? His role was about presentation, not the plot. So the real killer of Kojima's original ending wasn't Payton. It actually ended up being the people closest to Kojima himself See what I did there? It's like an E2 Brute kind of thing. And this isn't some grand conspiracy or some mystery. Kojima has admitted the truth. Casually too, it's not like he was trying to hide anything. In interviews, he's explained that the execution ending was his own idea. He explained that Snake and Otacon would turn themselves in, face some sort of trial, and be executed. It would have been the final sacrifice, a choice to die for the justice they believed in. And I think it's a very beautiful idea for an ending and a very poetic one. And you really can't milk the series for sequels after that. Not that that was an issue anyway with Kojima leaving Konami, and I don't know, Metal Gear Solid is wrapped up. So what really happened was Kojima had this idea, and I'm sure like a lot of his ideas, he shared it with his staff, and they basically shot it down.
そうですね。でも全部今のままやってたら上がらないと思います。
And so Kojima's on the record saying that all of his staff went against him. And so he simply decided, like a good leader, not to go that route. So really, I think this just shows Kojima's just a guy who listens to his team, and that's cool. He's receptive to feedback. I know I'm kind of framing this like a whodunit, but it's really just the team being like, hey, let's go another direction. That ending's a little too bleak. And now in a previous video, I think it was the Flappy Bird one, I talked about Hideo Kojima changing the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4 because he had received death threats. I was actually getting two stories mixed up. Hideo Kojima did receive death threats when he decided that Metal Gear Solid 3 would be his last game, and that he would have someone else make Metal Gear Solid 4. He did receive death threats and ultimately did come back. So he didn't even want to do the game to begin with, but man, you play the game and I think it's pretty obvious a lot went into it. A lot of it really feels like fan service now, maybe too much fan service. Maybe is almost kind of a middle finger to us and to the other people who didn't appreciate his vision. I don't know. Hideo Kojima is a weird one and a brilliant one. There's no telling what the inner workings of that man's mind are like, but I think it's worth thinking about what we really lost with that decision not to go with that ending. So we knew that Snake was dying anyway due to his fox die cancer, basically. He had accelerated aging, his time was short, Otacon had lived his life in a morally gray zone, given his past with his father and, his stepmom and his sister. An execution ending would have mirrored the series' recurring themes of sacrifice. It would have definitely mirrored the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3, which leads me to believe that Hideo was directly inspired by Metal Gear Solid 3's ending and thought it would just be a perfect way to end Metal Gear Solid 4, given that the boss, she didn't die a hero. She did these heroic deeds and no one would ever know about them. And that made her sacrifice brutal. But also I'm glad it didn't happen at the same time, because man, that would have been a very cold and bleak ending. I don't know. It might have worked better. There's no point in speculating anymore. We got something completely different. In the final game, Snake does still reach a point where he is ready to end it all. And we have that scene in the cemetery where he's got that 1911 in his mouth and he's thinking about pulling the trigger. The camera goes up and you hear the gunshot. But then it's revealed that he didn't do it. And he's breathing hard and he has all of this adrenaline shooting through him. And it's a very tense scene and beautifully done. And who's there witnessing this? Well, Big Boss himself. He arrives in the cemetery and then proceeds to info dump on Snake their entire story. Or, they tie up all of the loose threads right there, or as many as you can in a Metal Gear game. And that scene is beautiful, especially when he says, "This is good, isn't it?" Just saying that almost brings a tear to my eye. I love that scene. But anyways, Big Boss kind of gives Snake the big daddy talk he always should have been giving him. And, Snake walks away, choosing to live with what little time he has left, and he chooses to live it in peace. There's that line that, it's time for a world without snakes, or something similar. So this change did shift the story's tone completely. The execution ending would have been very absolute, a hard stop for both characters and the saga. The ending we get does sort of leave the door cracked, just enough for hope, but not enough for sequels. I'm hoping. Please do not make sequels to this game. Just make remakes if you're going to do anything. I've kind of changed my tune since I put out that really bad video. But anyways, I digress. So the ending we got, it leaves the door cracked. Just enough for hope, just enough for players to imagine the quiet final chapters or chapter of Solid Snake's, David's life. People do see this ending as too heavy-handed. Honestly, it could be argued that the other ending was also too heavy-handed because that would have been like some Jesus Christ stuff to go and just die for everyone's sins basically there at the end. So I think a majority of people are probably happier that Hideo Kojima's original vision was shot down and that they went with the bittersweet version instead. As much as people wanted there to be more there than there is. It really is just a simple, Kojima had a really cool idea. His team hated it. He really liked it, but ultimately he folded on the idea because his whole team was against him on it. But it's not like the ending was taken from him or anything. He made the decision to give that ending up. So the Metal Gear Solid 4 we got is the Metal Gear Solid 4 that was intended. So I hope this video cleared some things up. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and just put up 2 videos here for you to watch. Now look, I know these might not be your normal thing. Let's get a little daring tonight, huh? Maybe this bird video isn't something you normally would have clicked on, but tonight could be the night. Or maybe this video over here of a very much not AI generated image of a soldier screaming. It could be your lucky door, like a little miniature war movie. Just saying. Might want to click on one of these. Stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day, night, week, year, whatever. Peace.